The story opens in chaos, where a party battles an unknown enemy with everything they have, risking their lives. They struggle to grasp where this fully armored foe has emerged from and why he targets them with such relentless ferocity, leaving even their bravest hearts pounding like Monday mornings. No one scheduled bravery for today. At that moment, one member steps forward to confront the enemy, urging the rest to flee while he handles the threat, even as the party pleads for him to retreat with them, unwilling to leave him facing the foe alone. He ignores every plea, standing resolute against the chaos. They shout his name, Kaou, desperate to pull him back, unwilling to watch him sacrifice his life while he plants himself firmly, sword raised with full force, aiming straight at the enemy. Hero complex fully activated, no warranty. Then the story shifts to a serene city, where a girl peers intently at her mobile phone, absorbed in what she sees when an announcement echoes through the streets. Their favorite partner, Model D. Gale, will empower them to explore the Great Labyrinth. Instantly, the entire city erupts in joy, and she too is swept up in the excitement. The girl, Shion, jumps with joy, calling out to her friends Michio and Chikako, who remark on how cheerful she looks. Shion admits she's genuinely excited to head to the Great Labyrinth, though a flutter of nerves creeps in as their big explorer debut draws near. Together, the three capture the moment with a lively group selfie. Future trauma captured in high resolution. Lost in her thoughts, Shion moves forward when suddenly Michio shouts for her to pay attention. A truck swerves from behind and crashes into a pole, narrowly missing her, and she gasps at the near-death scare. Fuming, she mutters that if someone at such an old age still drives Chikakwali, they should at least watch where they're going. Meanwhile, one of her friends remarks that she'd heard if someone dies in a truck accident, they move on to another world. Shion responds that it's no joke, admitting she's genuinely thrilled to be stepping into a whole new world. Death statistics ruining casual conversation again. Soon, the three arrive at the International Grade Labyrinth Management Association, where a receptionist greets them warmly, informing them that their registration is complete and handing over their D-terminals. Shion beams with joy, declaring that she truly feels like an explorer now, and rushes straight to the receptionist, eagerly asking about her skincare routine, which leaves the receptionist visibly nervous. Her friends quickly pull her back, apologizing to the receptionist for Shion's enthusiastic curiosity. Personal boundaries collapsed at check-in. Then the three head to the changing room, where they swap their outfits from this world for those of the new world and get themselves ready. Then Shion tells them it's time to head toward the gate, thinking to herself that 25 years ago, at least 12 gates of the Great Labyrinth opened in this world, marking the start of their arrival here. Using the drop items from this world, they've significantly advanced their technology. History lesson delivered mid-outfit change. The three arrive at a black hole, serving as a gateway to the other world and the path to the Great Labyrinth. Her friends glance at her nervously, and with a decisive jump, Shion declares that it's time to go. She's thrilled just to take the first step of her adventure, and as she leaps, her friends are pulled along behind her, dragged into the black hole as it swallows them. Through it, a portal opens in the sky of the other world, and they pass through. When Shion regains her senses and looks around, the entire environment feels completely different. Consent briefly left behind somewhere. Now that Shion has finally arrived in the Great Labyrinth, her excitement is tempered as she watches her friends crash land behind her, realizing their first arrival in this world didn't go quite as smoothly. After arriving in this world, they start thinking about the instructions they've been given. Shion mentions that ahead they'll encounter dense forests and various challenges. Then, wanting a picture from her D-terminals, she asks her friend Chikako to help. The image appears with her name, level, and all details, hinting that their privacy is kept somewhat casual. Laughing at the thought, Shion adds that they should do a little hunting now that they've arrived. Data protection clearly not top priority. Spotting a small creature, Shion strikes swiftly with her sword, cleaving it into two pieces. As she finishes, an item suddenly drops for her, and after inspecting it, she beams with happiness. It's the first item of her life in this world. Her friends warn that wild monsters could appear here, so they should stay cautious. Shion counters that if they sell the items they gather from hunting, they could earn some part-time rewards. Hearing this, her friends' eyes light up with a hint of greed, and they eagerly follow her, deciding it's time for them to hunt too. Capitalism arrives faster than monsters. Meanwhile, the story shifts back to their hero, Kaou, who battles another monster. Amid the fight, only one thought occupies his mind, that even in this life, there are paths he could take to simply walk away. But if he speaks his mind, he realizes he's still chasing a dream. In the meantime, he knocks the monster to the ground, and a few nearby adventurers thank him for saving their lives. Seeing them, he smirks with quiet satisfaction. Validation achieved, ego stabilized temporarily. He explains that his fight with the master went deep, and in the meantime, the master gives him a potion to use. The two adventurers thank him, and Kaoru makes another request. He asks them to finish off the monster for him. The adventurers hesitate, saying that if they do, the experience points would go to them instead of Kaoru. He shrugs, saying it makes no difference to him. Anti-grind mindset baffling everyone present. He doesn't want his level to increase after finishing the monster, so he simply bids them goodbye and walks away. Behind him, the two adventurers stand in bewilderment, unable to understand why Kaoru refuses to level up. When he returns to his party, lively chatter fills the tables. During the meal, the members eagerly insist that Kaoru join in with the drinks, pressing him repeatedly about it. But the constant pestering only irritates him further. A lady sitting nearby hushes the boys, and Kaoru explains that he'll turn 35 next month, so he doesn't want to torture his liver with drinking. The rest of the group can't help but laugh at his reasoning. Aging unlocks unexpected self-control perks. Sitting there, he reflects that this is their annual gathering, where all his companions who once shielded the Great Labyrinth from countless troubles are present. Yet now, they live not as explorers but as ordinary undercover citizens. As he rises to leave, he overhears some rowdy boys talking about harm done to someone, and without hesitation, he lands a punch square on one of their backs. Retirement clearly not fully processed. Startled, the two boys turn alert and, calling him an old man, demand to know what his problem is. They charge at him and shove him, but Kaoru simply says, sorry. When they check his profile on the D terminals, they burst out laughing. They laugh because, despite Kaoru being 34, his profile shows a 17-year registration, with no level increase. He explains that he cannot use his D terminals outside the Great Labyrinth. It's against the rules. The boys, however, crowd around him, assuming he's just an ordinary man, and warn that if he doesn't comply, they'll collect from his friends sitting behind him. Numbers mislead those lacking context. This angers Kaoru further, and with a swift motion, he lifts the rowdy boy with one hand and slams him against the ceiling. Seeing this, the second boy turns pale, horrified as he watches his companion take a hit from Kaoru's single hand. After throwing the first boy aside, Kaoru approaches the second, who quickly pleads for a timeout. Sudden respect unlocked through physics. But Kaoru decides to teach them a lesson. He makes both boys kneel and explains that they are in the Great Labyrinth with high-level power. Yet this strength only works within its boundaries. He urges them to remember this firmly. The boys, sobbing and intimidated, promise to lock the lesson deep within their souls. Back at the gathering, his friends once again insist that he join the party, but he refuses, saying he doesn't want to hurt himself by drinking. As he walks away, he reflects on his companions, remembering that they were all Gale 9 and the trailblazers of the unexplored floor. Peer pressure undefeated, Liver remains victorious. He was the vanguard there, once known as the Black Arrow, and the moment that name crosses his mind, he grabs his head in embarrassment, cringing at how ridiculous it sounds now, then consoles himself by thinking that being in his early 20s made such choices inevitable. He reflects that at his age, he used to feel he could go anywhere in the world. Just then, a call comes through. It's from the guild. When he answers, he's suddenly asked if he's still in the Great Labyrinth. Nostalgia interrupted by corporate escalation. There's an emergency, and he's required to go. He takes a self-driving taxi, with the guild covering the cost, and before long, Kaoru arrives at the guild headquarters as soon as the vehicle stops. Meanwhile, Cheyenne and her friends encounter a new person who's already bothering them, insisting they get involved in some guild matters. Deep down, Cheyenne knows he's a notorious troublemaker here, and can't believe he expects her to go along with him. Red flags introduced without formal briefing. He tries to show off, revealing that his active power is now ready. Using it, he defeats the nearby low-level monsters in a single strike, boasting that nothing can stand against his active skill, as his level has reached 27. After defeating the monsters, he starts leaping around, collecting their experience points. Cheyenne is quite impressed, but he makes a grim face and warns her to be careful, explaining that this magic only works inside the Great Labyrinth, and she must exercise caution. Cheyenne thinks to herself that this person isn't as bad as she had imagined. Confidence proportional to audience presence. As he talks to them, Cheyenne suddenly notices something slipping dangerously. She sees her two friends about to fall on a slimy patch, and he rushes to catch them. In the process, he checks each woman's chest, which makes Cheyenne furious. She slaps him sharply across the face, leaving his mouth in a state that's memorable. Consequences delivered without cooldown period. But he acts shamelessly, enjoying himself, which strikes Cheyenne as extremely odd. Suddenly, something pops up from beneath him. Not a thing, but a horn from a dangerous wolf. The wolf strikes him, and tension spreads across Cheyenne's face even more. It turns out to be a unicorn wolf, usually appearing only on high-level floors, but Cheyenne panics even more, thinking to herself, how on earth it ended up on this floor? Difficulty scaling apparently on vacation. The wolf tears into the lustful man, and Cheyenne's friends are terrified. They can't bear to see anyone die before them. They ask what they can do, but Cheyenne insists that even combining all their strength won't be enough. Her friends urge her to run, and when they glance back at the man, he's still looking at them with lustful eyes, telling them to save themselves and flee. He tells them he'll soon return home, then suddenly pulls something from his hand. A burst of light appears and he vanishes, leaving Cheyenne, her friends, and even the wolf stunned. Exit executed with maximum confusion. Now, the wolf's next possible targets will be Cheyenne and her friends. The wolf turns its face fully toward Cheyenne and her friends, assuming a hunting stance, and slowly begins creeping closer to them. Her friends are terrified, knowing there's no emergency return from here. As the wolf focuses on them, Cheyenne calls out her name, gripping her sword and drawing it. She deliberately catches the wolf's attention, declaring that she is its true adversary, thinking to herself that she brought her friends here, so their safety is her responsibility. Leadership unlocked under extreme pressure. Then, gripping her sword tightly, Cheyenne suddenly charges toward the wolf, which rushes to meet her. She reminds herself that it's her duty to bring both her friends home alive. In the moment, Cheyenne doesn't fully understand the speed or the source of strength fueling her body, but she notices the wolf's throat is wide open and realizes that's exactly where she must strike. Instincts updating faster than tutorials, but as she closes in, the wolf, moving with lightning speed, bats her sword into the air. It soars far away and crashes to the ground, sending her friends into even greater panic. Cheyenne herself has no idea how to face such a powerful wolf, yet she keeps its attention focused away from her friends. The wolf moves closer, licking Cheyenne's face and sniffing between her legs, seemingly affected by the lustful man's influence. She yells to her friends to run, just as the wolf opens its massive jaws and lunges near her face. Situation escalated far beyond expectations. As the wolf moves to strike, a powerful object hits its horn and falls near Cheyenne. She realizes it's a ninja's kunai. The wolf's attention shifts, and it notices a figure emerging from the shadows, approaching swiftly. And it is none other than Kaou, gripping his sword as he strides forward, telling the girls that they are now safe. He adds that this problem won't last long, and saying this, he suddenly charges straight at the wolf, pointing his sword toward it. Timing impeccable. Entrance extremely cinematic. Seeing this, Cheyenne is suddenly astonished that she didn't even feel the sound of his footsteps on the ground, and she's amazed at his agility as Kaou fights the wolf, continuously striking at its horn. And as he dodges the wolf, he suddenly strikes at its throat, creating a perfect opportunity. Kaou delivers a powerful kick, sending the wolf flying into the wall. Efficiency perfected through long experience. Seeing this scene, Cheyenne blushes deeply and grows nervous, wondering who this old man is and how he could be so powerful. Cheyenne's friends tremble in fear, thinking that whoever saved them must be a super high-level explorer. As Kaou starts to leave, Chikako checks her D-terminals and is astonished to discover the truth about him, realizing why the D-terminals shows so much about Kaou. Reality contradicts every visible assumption. She learns that Kaoru's level is actually 1, despite being 34 years old, and panics even more while Cheyenne sits on the ground, thinking about everything that just happened. After striking the wolf, Kaou stands there like a hero, while Cheyenne and her friends, drenched in sweat, stare in shock, wondering who this old man really is and how he suddenly appears here. Hero pose held slightly too long. In Cheyenne's eyes, he looks incredibly strong, and his expression carries a serious weight, yet she can't figure out how he manages to reach them so suddenly, or why he appears at the exact moment they need help. As her gaze shifts back to the wolf, Cheyenne notices it preparing itself again, almost regaining balance, and when she calls out for the old man, he's suddenly nowhere to be seen. Doubt creeps in, making her wonder if her eyes are playing tricks on her, while the realization hits harder that the wolf is now moving straight toward her. Confidence drops faster than heartbeat. Kaoru runs along the wall and calls out that he's here, pulling the wolf's attention toward him. And from the height above, he steadies himself, fully prepared to strike down at it. As he strikes, Xion collapses in fright when a severed leg of the wolf lands near her. Kaoru immediately checks if everything is all right, and for a split second, Xion assumes he's addressing the monster. Realization hits hard when she understands he's speaking to her, and she panics before quickly responding that she's fine. Miscommunication peaks during extreme violence. This reaction gives Kaoru a solid read on the situation, and just then he notices the wolf charging at him again, despite its severed leg. Keeping a calm, cool expression, Kaoru thinks to himself that even now, the wolf's speed is still quite low. Before the wolf can reach him, Kaoru uses his agility and sword in perfect sync, slicing off its remaining 3 legs, and in that instant, the wolf is reduced to crawling across the ground like a helpless rat. Efficiency achieved, mercy not included. All of this feels breathtaking to Xion because Kaoru completely destroys the monster, and in relief, she calls out to her 2 friends, declaring that they've survived, but when she rushes over to them, she finds that both have already fainted after witnessing the entire scene. Kaoru notices a sword lying on the ground and asks if it belongs to Shikun, and she confirms that it slipped from her hand during the fight. Looking at her calmly, he assures her that she's safe now, and the moment his words sink in, a strange blush slowly spreads across Xion's face. Safety confirmed, emotional systems malfunctioning. Thinking about Kaoru, Xion realizes he's incredibly amazing and strong, and she feels she should thank him. Before she can speak, Kaoru thanks her instead, leaving Xion even more astonished, wondering what exactly he's expressing gratitude for. Before she can even ask, Kaoru looks at her and says that Xion has done something good by surviving, because he often carries out such tasks for the guild, yet he usually finds only dead people at the scene. His words leave Xion with a strangely intense feeling she can't quite place. Compliment delivered with alarming context. Winking, he tells Xion that it's his job, and upon hearing this, she feels even more grateful, realizing that after all he's done, Kaoru doesn't even take credit where people usually show off. Suddenly, Xion feels a strange warmth flooding her face turning bright red as she shivers. Thinking about Kaoru, one thought dominates her mind. Every word, every action of his is completely captivating. Deep inside, she starts falling for him, and in that moment, she realizes she's fallen in love with Kaoru at first sight. Emotional escalation exceeds safety thresholds. Seeing Xion in this state, Kaoru asks if she's okay. She assures him that she and her friends are fine, only a little scared in the moment. Kaoru says that's all pretty cool and asks her for a favor. Hearing this, Xion tells him he can ask for anything. He instructs her to grip his sword, and thinking of it as a sort of rental, Xion takes it in her hand without hesitation. Trust granted faster than logic. Then Kaoru tells her to slit the neck of the dying unicorn wolf, and she replies that she can do it. As she steps forward eagerly, a sudden realization hits her, and she freezes on the spot. She asks why Kaoru is telling her to do it, pointing out that all the experience points would go to her instead of him. He replies that it's fine this way and explains the method to strike, but since this is Xion's first time doing such a task, she grows extremely nervous. Tutorial arrives after boss fight. Just then, the wolf opens its eyes and stares straight at Xion, making her freeze in fear. Kaoru grabs its broken horn and pins it to the ground, and summoning her courage, Xion raises her sword and strikes directly above the wolf's head. Flames and ash erupt from within the beast, and it collapses, finally reduced to a lifeless seed. After it's finished, an item drops nearby, and Kaoru explains that it's a very valuable sale. Xion asks if she can truly keep it, and Kaoru replies that the time has come. Before she can ask what he means, a strange sensation ripples through her body. Reward system activates without consent. She tries to ask what's happening, but the sensation overwhelms her, and her screams and moans don't stop. Sparks of electricity seem to pulse through her mind, and she collapses to the ground, first on her knees and then fully onto her back, drenched in sweat and unable to understand what's happening to her body. Seeing her like this, Kaoru reassures her not to worry, explaining that it's just a level up and won't harm her. The unicorn wolf is a mid-level monster, and as a beginner, completing such a spell can send her level skyrocketing. That's why her body is experiencing this intense sensation. User experience team never consulted. She lies on the ground, drenched in sweat and moaning, and after a short while the process finishes, though her body still radiates warmth. She says that if every level up feels like this, she might die from it, but Kaoru explains that it only happens when jumping to high levels, and that it passes quickly. He adds that she must return the emergency return item to the guild, but first she has to sell the drop item, leaving Cheyenne astonished, wondering if she can really keep it. Administrative steps resume immediately after trauma. Then he tells her that he's going to explore the area a bit further, so they should stay safe. Cheyenne bows slightly, thanks him, and says she'll head back toward safety. Then she returns to her world, and even during her regular school routine, the blush on her face hasn't faded, leaving her lost in her thoughts when another girl starts speaking about Germany in class. Reality resumes, emotions remain lagging. The girl greets Cheyenne with a hello in German, and Cheyenne responds in the same language, explaining that she knows the girl, Berta, isn't from Germany and actually grew up in Japan. She replies that her spirit comes straight from Germany, then shifts the conversation to ask Cheyenne about her weekend. She sits over her diary, carefully noting down the weekend's events while talking, when suddenly she recalls how Cheyenne and her friends had been in danger, and an old man had appeared, stylishly saving them before disappearing. Cheyenne reflects that it all felt incredibly cool, totally max hype, while Berta looks at her with a hint of surprise. Memory replay enhanced with emotional filters. Suddenly, Berta asks Cheyenne if the old man hadn't seemed suspicious to her in any way. Hearing this, Cheyenne snaps out of her thoughts and begins reflecting on the question. She asks in surprise if the person who saved her was really suspicious. Berta adjusts her glasses and explains that when Cheyenne got stuck among strangers and was attacked, a level 1 old man appeared and rescued her. Tossing some equipment onto her table, she adds that such moments should be seen as a good opportunity for streaming, content potential prioritized over survival. Cheyenne interrupts her, taking her name, and asks what exactly she meant about the old man. She explains that she had even called him, but he didn't answer, making an excuse instead, for which she apologizes. Then she asks Cheyenne about her friends, wondering why they didn't come today. Cheyenne explains that it's not their fault. They probably thought she was in mortal danger and hadn't yet recovered. Trauma recovery not optimized for schedules. Berta then asks if Cheyenne has considered not going back, but Cheyenne presses her hand to her chest, thinking about Kaou and his actions, and in that moment, his face fills her thoughts completely. With full confidence and a flush on her cheeks, she says she hasn't thought about that because she's going next week. Berta adds that she'll go too, not wanting to miss the streaming chance. And then her mind drifts to thoughts of that old man. Business opportunities override common sense again. She wonders if it might all be pre-planned, but she wants to make her debut as a shocking expose-style streamer. And Cheyenne tells her they'll think about it next week. The following week, they head to the headquarters where the guild receptionist welcomes them. As they arrive, the receptionist asks if she can ask something, and clarifies that it's not about cosmetics. After a short while, the two head to the changing room. Reputation precedes all professional interactions. Soon they arrive in the other world, and she leads Berta back to the spot where they had started. Seeing Kaou there, she thinks she's found her soulmate, and calling his name, says it's been nice to team up with him. Kaou, in turn, reflects that this is the same girl he had saved. She tells Kaou how lucky it is that they've met again in such a huge dungeon, while Berta knows Cheyenne must have asked the receptionist about him. Coincidences require administrative assistance, apparently. Kaou knows this too, but he's wondering what she means by soulmate, since youth slang isn't his strong suit. Then he turns to Cheyenne and asks if she still hasn't learned her lesson. She explains that seeing Kaou made her heart race, and a strange feeling for him awakened inside her. Kaou tells her it's just a suspension bridge effect, but Cheyenne doesn't understand. Scientific explanation fails emotional firewall. Berta clarifies that it means a couple falling off a bridge, yet Kaou insists it doesn't work that way. He explains that it happens when you're in danger. Your heart races, and you might think you're feeling romantic for the person in front of you. Berta interrupts, saying these feelings don't last long, and then starts giving misleading advice again. Kaou stops her, insisting it doesn't work that way, while Cheyenne wonders to herself what he means by romantic feelings. Too many theories, zero emotional clarity. Then she turns her face away, thinking she doesn't love Kaou, but there's definitely something in her heart for him. She just doesn't know what. Her face flushes bright red. Meanwhile, Berta says she hasn't introduced herself yet, so she gives her long, elaborate name. Hearing it, Kaou imagines she might be a foreigner or half Japanese. Introductions delayed, suspicions immediately generated. He tells her it's nice to meet her, and she comments on how Kaou saved Cheyenne's life, a fact that's hard to believe coming from someone of his level. Kaou thinks to himself that he's probably figured out their situation, One girl is suspicious about her own circumstances, while the other cares deeply for her friend. Setting all that aside, he alerts them that it's time for the monsters to arrive. Psychological analysis complete. Danger imminent. Just then, monsters appear, startling the two girls, and Kaou draws his sword, standing firm before them. Berta asks if he can show his full prowess here, and he replies that he can. And during this, he will also teach them a lesson. He grips his kunai in both hands and hurls them straight at the monsters, which are armored caterpillars, but even as they charge, the caterpillars move swiftly toward Kaou. Demonstration mode activated without disclaimer. The kunai strike the triple-pillared bodies of the monsters and stick instantly, giving bonus points on impact. Xian watches in awe, realizing even more that Kaou knows swords or arrows won't work here because their armor protects them. She thinks that the lustful boy from before must have defeated them quickly thanks to a level up. Kaou explains that at level 4 they are taught active sword-related skills and how to use them effectively on the caterpillars. Experience beats reckless confidence every time. Just then, Berta nudges him to look behind, and as Kaou spins around, he delivers a sweeping kick that sends a caterpillar flying through the air. As the caterpillar flips through the air and lands with a thud, it dies instantly upon hitting Kaou's sword placed below. He explains that while their armor is strong, there are soft gaps between the plates, and this insight impresses both Berta and Xian. Weak points discovered, optimism restored. Now Kaou tells Xian that it's her turn, and as he steps in front of her, Xian suddenly freezes, overwhelmed as sweat starts breaking out across her body. Kaou quickly urges her to strike, and Xian, already aiming between the armor plates, hits the caterpillar perfectly, killing it. Berta watches in astonishment at Xian's precision, and now Kaou turns to Berta, declaring that it's her turn next. Confidence borrowed, accuracy surprisingly high, but as Berta raises her weapon, nerves grip her, and she can't land a hit on the caterpillar. She tries hard, yet her strikes miss the mark, while Xian guides her, helping her aim accurately. As soon as Berta manages to strike and defeat the caterpillar, a strange sensation ripples through her body, and she begins moaning. Xian immediately realizes that Berta has leveled up and asks what's happening, thinking it feels as if a current has jolted through her mind. Level-up effects remain socially awkward. She asks Xian if it was erotic, and Xian admits it was to some extent. Feeling elated after her first level up, Berta beams, but Kaou interrupts, saying he needs a bit of help clearing the area. Seeing the swarm of caterpillars beneath Kaou, both girls are stunned. Then Kaou tosses the caterpillars one by one toward the girls, and they strike the triple pillars effortlessly, following Kaou's instructions. Training escalates into full production mode. As they do, their levels keep rising, and the strange sensations ripple through their bodies with each successful hit. Watching them, Kaou declares that they'll need to level up today, while both girls feel a slimy sensation coating their bodies, their faces flushed red. Soon after, they return to their own world. When they return, they spot a person sitting on a bench, eating, and soon realize it's Kaou having his lunch there. World-saving complete, lunch break prioritized. They approach him, but Kaou declares he won't share, and they don't even want his lunch. Xian, noticing his slight irritation at her sweet call, asks why he's eating alone after finishing his work, while Berta teases, saying he's giving off serious lone vibes. He raises his voice slightly, telling them that just because he's an old man doesn't mean he can't feel hurt if they push him. He's baffled how, a moment ago, they were shivering, and now suddenly they have all this energy. Emotional whiplash noted, patience depleted. At that moment, Xian calls out Kaou's name affectionately, and he takes note of it. She says that if Kaou wants, she can make lunch for him, but Kaou asks why such kindness is necessary. She explains that she wants to thank him, for herself and for Berta, reaching level 3. Berta adds that Kaou didn't actually defeat a single monster himself, and both of them agree that he gave them the chance to level up while holding back. Credit reassigned, ego intentionally bypassed. Then she asks, puzzled, why Kaou doesn't take the experience points for himself, and instead gives them to others. The question leaves Kaou momentarily speechless, as it makes them wonder why he's still level 1 despite having such extraordinary skills.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I listened